Scientists have been puzzled for years over satellite images of huge plumes that seem to be rising from the frozen Russian Arctic. Although it covers 1/12 of our planet, the Russian sector of the Arctic was off limits to Westerners until recently. It was only with the thaw in international relations that Russian and American scientists could join together for the first time in a collaborative research effort to measure Arctic air pollution and to solve the mystery of the Arctic plumes. I'm Tony Hansen, a physicist at the Lawrence Berkeley Laboratory. About 10 years ago we invented this instrument called an ethylometer that measures one particular component of air pollution. We've used it in studies in the Arctic, both in the West and also in the Russian sector. In early 1992, Dr. Russell Schnell, a senior scientist with the US National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, called me up and asked me if I'd be interested in participating in the Bennett Island plume study. Together with Sasha Polisar from Moscow, we put the project together in record time. For 20 years, satellite images revealed enormous air streams, sometimes hundreds of miles long, occurring once or twice a month in the winter and spring. Scientists had hypothesized that the plumes might be caused by the release of methane gas. They thought that frozen methane, locked up beneath the ocean floor in formations called clathrates, was melting, bubbling up through the ocean and escaping into the air to form these unusual plumes. This could have important implications for global warming and the greenhouse effect. Far from Moscow, but quite close to Alaska, the source of the plumes had been pinpointed. They were emanating from a tiny frozen speck of ice and rock called Bennett Island. It is one of the new Siberian islands off Russia's northeast coast. We loaded up a plane with supplies and atmospheric measuring equipment in Nome, Alaska. We took equipment to collect air samples to be analyzed for methane. We also brought instruments to measure Arctic haze. Our base of operations was Cherskiy, a Russian airbase 200 miles north of the Arctic Circle and 600 miles from Bennett Island. Cherskiy lies on a frozen river, which thaws in summer to allow for shipping. The town is home to 14,000 people. No longer controlled and supported by Moscow, Cherskiy must make its own economic way. Activities revolve around the regional air center. The townspeople were helpful, friendly, and glad to work on our project. Airplane and crew cost about 1% of what they would have cost in the States. After 2 days of preparation, we were ready to fly to Bennett Island to look at a plume. Our plane was equipped with everything we needed, including a cook who fixed fish soup and coffee for us on board. Bennett Island looked like any other Arctic island. We flew round and round but observed nothing that would hint at any subsurface methane eruptions. We collected air samples to be analyzed for any traces of methane. In all, we flew 8 missions. The plane climbed and descended in a sawtooth profile from sea level to 15,000 feet to study the vertical distribution of air pollution. Luckily, there is a telephone line between Far Eastern Russia and Alaska, and we maintained close contact with our colleagues. Towards the end of the 3-week project, I got a call from Russ Schnell in Anchorage. Хорошо. Russ. Doing just fine. How was your flight, Russ? Yeah? A plume had just blown. We were in the plane and ready to go. We approached Bennett Island at 20,000 feet. All we saw were high clouds. Nothing was coming from the ocean surface. We descended and flew right into the plume at about 10,000 feet. Finally, when we got down to the surface, we could see that nothing was coming out of the ocean. There were no methane eruptions. The plume was actually a stream of clouds forming 10,000 feet above the island. We determined that the plumes are actually a meteorological phenomenon caused by the shape of the island. The scooped-out shape of the 1,000-foot cliffs on Bennett Island perturbs the atmosphere. When the frozen layers of air full of water vapor and cloud nuclei reach a suitable altitude, maybe 10,000 feet up, a cloud may form. Seen from a satellite, it looks like a plume. Our data analysis showed no methane whatsoever. We had solved the mystery of the Arctic plumes, and more than that, we made good friends into the bargain. The prospect for future Russian-American scientific collaborations in the Arctic looks very bright indeed.